It is an incredible pleasure to introduce our special guest right now. Just a remarkable life, really. An incredible actress, but frankly, I'm going to introduce her as more than that. She's like the most incredible person that I have ever known in my life. Marsha was one of the charter members of the Screen Actors Guild, absolutely phenomenal performer, was known as Hollywood's youngest character actress when she was early in her prime. She's had many primes, this woman. That's what I love about her. And she's just an absolute angel. I had the pleasure of actually making a film with her a few years ago that remains and always will be the greatest creative experience of my life. She is that remarkable. Ladies and gentlemen, the fantastic Marsha Hunt.
While we're still standing, and thank you for that, I'd like us to stand for a special minute in honor of someone I consider a national treasure. And it's the man who has spread such enjoyment, such value of pleasure around the world, and who has indeed brought us here together today. Let's stand up for Ted Turner and give him a hand. I honor what he has done.
You're getting to have a seat, Marsha.
Oh, don't be alarmed about this.
I'll be careful the questions I ask.
I'm really able-bodied. I'm just getting over several injuries, and this is one of them. But I'll be fine again. I just need a little more time, that's all.
Well, you look marvelous as always, Marsha. If you do not know, Marsha, among other credits I could have given her at the top, I will say, like Hollywood's best dressed woman.
Oh,
And if you haven't seen the book that Marsha did a few years ago called The Way We Wore, which is a spectacular tome that's your entire fashion history in Hollywood. And I have to say, the thing I always love about you, if you don't know this, Marsha was sort of, well, gray-listed, blacklisted, whatever, during the witch hunt era.
I stopped working.
Yeah, stopped working. Because she is one of the great liberals in Hollywood history. And that book, The Way We Wore, just proves that liberals can be well-dressed.
Thank you, that's a lovely tribute.
Of all the films that you made, you did Pride and Prejudice, you did all these fabulous motion pictures, and amazingly, Raw Deal has
It is by far the darkest script I ever read. Nobody, it turns out well. Everyone ends up, you know, a tragic case, and some of them deserve it, like Raymond Burr, but, who was a darling. But it was, in that respect, most unusual, and also I found it interesting because though it's a story about a man, it's the story of two women who come from opposite directions and viewpoints and characters, if you like, and they both undergo a big change before the film is over. And that was interesting to watch, and very interesting to play, of course. And I loved working with that cast. And we had a cameraman who has grown famous, I guess, for his particular lighting in that. And of course, Tony Mann, the director, who's gone on to glory. So for many reasons, I'm very grateful to that film. And now that there's a noir film cult around the world, they hadn't even coined that word yet, you know, in 1947 when we made this thing. But now it's being hailed as in the vanguard, isn't it?
Yeah. Did you notice when you were, I mean, you read the script and you said, wow, this is dark, nothing goes well for any of these people. But when you were shooting the film, did it feel like something different than what you were used to making? Because, I mean, it is a really, really dark film, and Alton's way of setting up scenes was very unusual for the time. Did you feel when you were making the film, like, what is this? This is very unusual.
No, not really. I had been in a lot of pretty unusual films, and as you mentioned, thank you, a lot of very starkly different characters to play. So this was yet another one. Actually, I missed Goody Two-Shoes up to a point when I fire a gun to my own amazement. No, we didn't really feel that we were turning a page in film history in any way. It was a challenge, and we worked very hard. In fact, what's interesting is that Claire Trevor barely spoke to me. And we lunched together, the whole cast, in a boardroom, probably Goldwyn boardroom, that's the lot where we shot it. But around the set, it wasn't hostile, she just wasn't ever around. And then I thought, oh, she's keeping in character. She's afraid she might like me and she has to hate me in the character. And I met her many years later, and she was here from New York, where she had lived for years, and greeted me with such warmth and like a long-lost sister. So sure enough, it was the raw deal character that she was protecting by not getting too well acquainted with each other. It was something to admire once I understood it.
It was funny, I had the pleasure of speaking with Claire several times, not long before she died, and we were talking about this film, and I said, do you remember anything about making Raw Deal? And she said, no, not a thing. And I said, really? And she goes, you have to understand, honey, I made those back to back to back to back, and I never saw any of them after I made them. Tell me what that film was about. And I said, oh, it's you and Marsha Hunt, and one of you's the good girl, and one of you's the bad. And she goes, oh, let me guess which is which. Yes, she definitely was playing the bad girl. And I have to say, what's funny about this movie is there's like it's a very low budget film, very dark, like you say, stark, ugly things, terrible things happen to people. But you and Claire Trevor, I swear, are the best dressed women in Hollywood. Because, I mean, I don't know, if you've seen Claire Trevor's movies, you know. I mean, she never steps in front of a camera without being
If she was a gangster's moll,
oh, yeah.
the gangster got paid pretty well.
Yeah, she was kept in fine style. She always had the incredible hats. Claire Trevor had more amazing hats than anybody. And what was it like working with a man who I think is one of the really underrated actors of this era, is Dennis O'Keefe, who is just tremendous, really. He was such a natural at delivering this hard-boiled dialogue. What was he like?
Dennis was a joy to work with. He was, as you said, a first-rate actor, and just a wonderful, congenial compatriot. I do remember that he taught me a couple of very naughty songs that I will not render today, but I remember them well. Dennis was a joy to work with.
Tonight, Marsha, tonight. We'll get that song out of you before okay, very good. And is it surprising that the film continues to be revered like this? Are there other films on your resume that you wish we were showing instead of Raw Deal, so that we can go and look for them? I mean, what are you proud of in your career? What are you most proud of?
Oh, goodness. Well, there are, 62 or 3 of them to remember. Yeah, there are a couple of special ones for my own personal reasons. One was Carnegie Hall. I kind of carried the story in a film that is the only film that ever brought together every top concert artist of the mid-century, of the 20th century. They were all there. the bass, the soprano, the cellist, the pianist, Arthur Rubinstein here, Piatigorsky, Risa Stevens, Lily Pons, all of them, in one film. And I was kind of a soap opera story, but I was so proud to be in it. And I had grown up in Manhattan, loving New York, loving Carnegie Hall as the place of great privilege on special occasions to go to a concert there. And to be shooting a film that we owned the hall for 10 weeks. There were no concerts that whole summer. We had the hall. And it was quite a thrill to be in that one. And I don't know, there's a film of, I think, historic, real importance called None Shall Escape. I don't know whether anyone here has seen that or is familiar with it. Oh, good, someone.
Incredibly prescient film, yeah.
It's a film made in the midst of World War II, 1943. We were not certain of victory in 1943. But this film predicted when the very war we were in would be over and we would have won, and that the war criminals, the Nazis, would be brought to trial for their crimes. It envisioned the World Court, the Nuremberg trials. It was an amazing film in that it looked ahead that far. Also, to my knowledge, it's the only film that showed persecution of Jews. We knew that the Nazis were anti-Semites, but we didn't see bad treatment of Jewish people on the screen much. Here we were worrying about Japan. We were closer to that enemy than to Germany. But this film showed a rabbi being shot dead before your eyes as he was exhorting his flock not to go onto those boxcars like a flock of sheep to a certain terrible end. But to see this in 1943, that showed great courage. And by the way, the screenwriter for None Shall Escape was named Lester Cole, and he was among the ill-famed Hollywood 19 who were brought as brilliant writers before that Committee on Un-American Activities in Washington that started the whole nightmare of blacklists. Lester Cole wrote None Shall Escape. And I respect him and the film, and just names.
Well, I'll
please.
tell you who,
What's
I'll
the
tell you
name
who
of the actor
deserves.
who plays?
Alexander Knox plays
Thank
the,
you,
plays the
Alex
Nazi on
Knox.
it, yeah.
Was superb in that
Tremendous
as
performance.
this horrifically evil Nazi. And he did that just before he played Woodrow Wilson. Pretty good actor.
Yeah, it's beautifully directed by Andre de Toth, and actually the person that I think deserves the most credit for that film, and you never hear anybody giving him credit for anything, is Harry Cohn, the head of Columbia Pictures, who really was adamant about getting this picture made. And it was a courageous movie to make at the time. And he was adamant about getting that film done. And Andre de Toth had very wonderful things to say about his, support of the picture. And
He does deserve credit for that,
yeah,
indeed. None shall escape.
yeah, look
And
for
it
that.
meant all the villains
Can we
would
take
pay
some
one
questions?
day. Yeah.
Can we take a few questions? We can take 2 questions. I don't want to monopolize Marsha. If there are 2 good questions in the, this gentleman right here.
Ms. Hunt, you earlier mentioned Tony Mann. Do you have any recollections of working with him as a director on Raw Deal?
Any recollections of working with Anthony Mann?
Only that it was totally congenial. In our case, he did not direct our performances. He directed, I think, what you saw. He directed where the camera was, the lighting, the mood, the pace. But performance, well, he was working with 3 pros, more than 3. Raymond Burr and John Ireland were pretty good actors too, a bunch of us. And we kind of knew our craft by the time we worked together in that film. He turned us loose, assuming that we would have our characterizations ready. And I'm sorry, I really don't recall any specifics about performance direction, only that it was a very compatible set, And I think his glory as a director was probably won more in other films than, well, certainly, as I said, lighting and mood were splendid. But he didn't give the performances the actors did.
Thank you.
Right here, right
I'm
now.
curious how long it actually took to make this film.
Do you recall how long it took to make the film?
I was asked about how long it took us. I would guess 6 weeks. It's possible it was even 4. It was not quite a poverty budget, but it was nowhere near an A Pictures luxury. I remember we shot it as fast as we were able, and we were fairly able, so we shot it fast.
That's brilliant. One last question. This gentleman right here.
Can you talk about the blacklist, how you found out about you were part of it?
How much time do we have?
I was hoping that wasn't going to be the last question.
The Blacklist was an evil blight that began in Hollywood and swept the nation. As you may not all be aware, fear took over. Fear of being different, of questioning authority. It was a time of don't make waves. You might be called a commie. You might be called a pinko. I knew nothing of communism. I took the steps I did to protest what I thought was injustice against my industry and some very gifted writers. But communism was of no importance to me. The blacklist was fear. It was fear imposed on a whole nation. Teachers were fired if they didn't sign a loyalty oath. And some of them were outraged at being asked to do such a thing, that there was any assumption that they might not be loyal to their own country. And they were fired if they didn't. Ministers lost their pulpits for speaking out. It was a time of conformity. Don't ask questions, don't make waves. And the whole industry turned cowardly and went along with that very bad committee on Un-American. They were the Un-Americans. But it did spread across the nation, and I think we have to be on guard, never to fear, always question what needs questioning. Speak out, it's our right. It's why we're proud Americans, that we're able and free to do that. And as long as we do, we'll be okay.
Unfortunately, we have to wind up. Marsha, it is always such an incredible pleasure to see you, dear. I have to say 2 last things. If you want to see Marsha give an incredible performance today, you can find our film online. The Grand Inquisitor is on YouTube now, and Marsha gives an amazing performance. It's a short 20-minute film that we made a couple of years ago. And also, if you want to see more of Anthony Mann and John Alton's incredible work, on April 27th at my Noir City Film Festival down at the Egyptian, we are showing Reign of Terror, which is their interpretation of the French Revolution, as a noir gangster picture. You've never seen Robespierre quite like this. It's fantastic, so I hope I see some of you there. Thank you very much, and again, the fantastic Marsha Hunt.
Thank you.